The security camera would later show it all, a massive German shepherd, fur matted with blood, staggering through the automatic doors of Mercy Regional Medical Center. The dog's eyes burned with desperate determination as it carried an unconscious little girl on its back. The child's arms hung limply around the animal's neck, her blonde hair caked with dirt and blood. Dr. Sarah Whitfield, minutes from ending her final shift before retirement, froze mid-signature as the commotion erupted. Nurses screamed. A security guard reached for his weapon, then stopped short. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "The dog is carrying her." The shepherd took 3 more steps into the gleaming emergency room, leaving crimson paw prints across white tile. Only when medical staff rushed forward did the animal finally surrender its precious cargo, collapsing in a heap as gentle hands lifted the girl away. The dog's eyes never left the child, even as its own life ebbed away on the cold hospital floor. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. Silverdale. Nevada sat like a dusty afterthought in the desert landscape. A town of just under 5,000 souls where everyone claimed to know everyone else's business. Mercy Regional Medical Center served as the only hospital within a 100-mile radius. Its aging infrastructure and perpetual staffing shortages a testament to rural healthcare challenges across America. 8-year-old Lily Mason didn't mind that Silverdale wasn't on any tourist maps. Her world was perfectly complete with her books, her adoptive parents, and most importantly, Ranger, the German shepherd who'd changed her life. Born with tetralogy of Fallot, a complex heart condition that left her smaller than other children her age, Lily had been abandoned at birth. Tom and Rebecca Mason, a high school biology teacher and bookstore owner, had adopted her knowing the medical challenges ahead, their hearts as open as their modest home on the outskirts of town. Lily's condition meant limitations, but never in her capacity to love. She poured that love especially into Ranger, the damaged German shepherd no one else wanted. "He's been through too much," the shelter volunteers had warned when the Masons inquired 3 months earlier. "Former search and rescue. Something happened on his last mission. Doesn't trust anyone anymore." What the shelter didn't fully explain was Ranger's impressive history. 23 successful rescues over 5 years of service before the traumatic building collapse that ended his career. The dog that arrived at the Mason home moved like a shadow, wary eyes constantly scanning for threats, flinching at sudden movements. He accepted food only when left alone, slept only in corners with his back protected, and avoided human touch entirely, except with Lily. From their first meeting, something inexplicable connected them. 2 souls marked by physical limitations and circumstances beyond their control. Within a week, Ranger was sleeping outside her bedroom door. Within a month, he allowed her small fingers to stroke his fur while she read aloud each night, her soft voice somehow penetrating the fortress of his trauma. Dr. Sarah Whitfield knew nothing of Lily or Ranger as she prepared to complete her final shift at Mercy Regional. At 62, the veteran pediatric emergency physician had seen everything the human body could endure, and everything it couldn't. Like the day her own daughter Emily didn't survive a catastrophic building collapse 15 years earlier. The same collapse that had broken a certain German shepherd's spirit. 3 days before Ranger would stagger through the hospital doors. The Mason family celebrated what they called his gotcha day, the 3-month anniversary of bringing him home. Rebecca had baked a small, dog-friendly cake, while Tom snapped photos of Lily carefully placing a paper crown on Ranger's head. The German Shepherd tolerated the celebration with stoic dignity, his amber eyes never leaving Lily's face. "He looks like he's planning his escape," Tom joked, adjusting his glasses as he checked the image on his camera. Rebecca smiled, watching Lily whisper something in the dog's ear. "He's not going anywhere. Look at them. I've never seen a bond like that." That evening followed their usual routine dinner, homework, and finally, Lily's favorite part of the day, reading time with Ranger. The German Shepherd would settle at the foot of her bed, head on paws, ears perked forward as she read aloud from The Secret Garden. It was their 3rd time through the book. If you look the right way, you can see that the whole world is a garden. Lily read, her small finger tracing under each word. Ranger's eyes drooped, not from boredom, but from the rare contentment only her voice brought him. Later that night, while the family slept, Ranger's behavior shifted. He paced at windows, hackles raised, nose working overtime. Something unfamiliar lingered at the edges of the property, a scent that triggered deep warning signals in his brain. By morning, the shepherd was exhausted but vigilant, refusing his breakfast and stationing himself firmly beside Lily's chair as she ate her cereal. "He's acting weird," Lily noted, slipping him a piece of bacon under the table. Tom frowned, watching the dog's unusual attentiveness. "I'll take him to the vet if he's still not eating tomorrow." While checking the mailbox that afternoon, Tom discovered small pieces of meat scattered near their property line. "Probably someone trying to poison coyotes," he told Rebecca, gathering the suspicious morsels in a plastic bag. "I'll report it to animal control." Rebecca found Ranger vomiting in the backyard later that day. "Probably ate something bad," she concluded, not connecting it to the meat Tom had found. Ranger allowed her to check him over, but his eyes constantly returned to the windows, tracking something none of them could see. The night it happened, Tom and Rebecca attended the high school's parent-teacher conference, leaving Lily with Melissa Bradford, their regular 16-year-old babysitter. Thunder rumbled in the distance as they pulled out of the driveway, promising to be home by 9. "We'll have cookies and watch that mermaid movie," Melissa told Lily as they waved goodbye from the porch. "And I brought nail polish." Ranger refused to join their activities, instead positioning himself at the living room window, body rigid with tension. Each time the thunder sounded, he growled low in his throat. "He hates storms," Lily explained, though something in her voice suggested uncertainty. Ranger had never shown fear of thunder before. At 8:17 p.m., the house plunged into darkness. Melissa sighed, reaching for her phone's flashlight. "Power outage from the storm. I'll find the circuit breaker." "Don't leave me," Lily whispered, suddenly afraid. Ranger's growl had deepened, and he'd moved from the window to stand directly in front of her, body vibrating with tension. "It's just the storm," Melissa reassured her, but her voice wavered as Ranger's growl intensified. The crash of the back door giving way came simultaneously with another thunderclap. Melissa screamed as shadowy figures rushed into the house. Ranger launched himself at the intruders, but his movements were sluggish, uncoordinated, not the sharp precision of his training. One man cursed as the dog's teeth grazed his arm, then swung something heavy that connected with the shepherd's skull. "Get the girl! Hurry!" a voice commanded. Melissa tried to shield Lily but was roughly shoved aside, her head striking the coffee table as she fell. Lily screamed for Ranger as strong hands lifted her. The German shepherd struggled to his feet, wobbling but determined, only to be kicked back down. "Deal with the dog," ordered a man in surgical mask and baseball cap. The last thing Lily saw before a cloth covered her face was Ranger lunging forward again, catching the sleeve of one kidnapper before another secured a thick zip tie around the dog's neck, pulling it cruelly tight. "Ranger!" she screamed through the cloth. The sound muffled as chemical sweetness filled her lungs. The shepherd fought against the plastic cutting into his throat, claws scrabbling frantically on the hardwood floor as Lily was carried away. His vision dimmed from the blow, from the plastic restricting his breathing, from whatever poison had been slowly working through his system, through fading consciousness. He heard car doors slam, an engine start. His child was gone. The humans who had taken her didn't realize they'd left behind the one creature on Earth who would die before giving up on finding her. Tom and Rebecca Mason returned home shortly after 9 to find their front door ajar, spilling yellow light into the darkness. Tom's hand instinctively reached for Rebecca's, squeezing tight as premonition gripped them both. "Lily," Rebecca called, rushing inside. The scene that greeted them defied comprehension. Furniture overturned, a lamp shattered across the floor, and Melissa Bradford lying unconscious beside the coffee table, a gash on her forehead oozing blood. "Lily!" Tom shouted, racing through the house while Rebecca knelt beside Melissa, fingers fumbling for a pulse. "Lily, where are you?" The teenager moaned, eyelids fluttering. "Men, they took her. Tried to stop." Her words slurred together as consciousness slipped away again. Rebecca's scream from the living room froze Tom in his tracks. He found his wife kneeling beside Ranger, the shepherd's body ominously still, a plastic zip tie embedded in the fur around his neck. "He's breathing, but barely," Rebecca sobbed, hands shaking as she worked to loosen the plastic. "Call 911, Tom. Call them now." Within 30 minutes, their modest home transformed into a crime scene. Paramedics transported Melissa to Mercy Regional while a grim-faced officer explained the process for reporting a missing child. Ranger, revived but disoriented, paced weakly between Lily's room and the back door, whining with increasing desperation. "Dogs usually run off during break-ins," Officer Williams remarked, watching Ranger's agitation. "Strange he stayed behind." "He wouldn't leave Lily," Tom said hoarsely. "They have a special bond." Detective James Cooper arrived as midnight approached, his weathered face betraying neither optimism nor despair as he systematically collected details Lily's medical history. Recent photos, descriptions of the kidnappers from Melissa's fragmented recollections. "Most runaway cases resolve within 24 hours, the detective said, though his eyes tracked Ranger's determined movement patterns with professional interest. "Runaway," Rebecca's voice cracked with disbelief. "She's 8 years old with a heart condition, and children don't typically destroy their own homes before leaving." Cooper's expression softened slightly. "Just covering all bases, ma'am. The evidence suggests a targeted abduction, which is both concerning and potentially helpful. Targeted means purpose, and purpose leaves traces." As officers combed the property with flashlights, Tom noticed Ranger vomiting in the corner. "Something's wrong with him," he told Rebecca, gentle hands examining the shepherd. It's not just the zip tie. He's been sick since yesterday. Within an hour, Ranger lay on an examination table at the 24-hour veterinary clinic while the Masons hovered anxiously nearby. Dr. Elena Vasquez frowned at the preliminary blood work. There's evidence of a sophisticated sedative in his system, she explained, pointing to the results. Not your typical rat poison or antifreeze. This is pharmaceutical grade, administered in small doses over time. Someone's been poisoning him. Rebecca's hand covered her mouth in horror. Deliberately. Dr. Vasquez confirmed. Small amounts, probably in food left around your property. Not enough to kill immediately, but to gradually weaken him. Whoever took your daughter didn't want interference from a trained protection animal. How did you know he was trained? Tom asked sharply. The veterinarian gestured to the shepherd's behavior, despite his weakness. Ranger maintained alert positioning, eyes continuously scanning the room's entry points. Military or search and rescue? I'd guess. The microchip confirmed it. Your dog has quite a history. Mr. Mason. While Rebecca stayed with Ranger, Tom followed Dr. Vasquez to her office, where she pulled up Ranger's records on her computer. Ranger served 5 years with Nevada Search and Rescue, 23 successful missions, mostly lost hikers and climbers, decorated twice for exceptional service. Tom stared at the screen, at pictures of a younger, confident Ranger receiving commendations. The shelter didn't tell us much, just that he had trauma from his last mission. Dr. Vasquez's expression grew somber. The Williams Building collapse in Carson City, 15 years ago. Gas explosion, partial structural failure, 9 casualties, including a child. Ranger located all victims, but for some, it was too late. She scrolled to another report. He refused to leave one victim, a young girl. Handlers had to sedate him to remove him from the scene. After that, he couldn't work anymore. Severe PTSD, wouldn't respond to commands, became avoidant with handlers. Tom thought of Ranger's behavior at home, how he flinched at loud noises, positioned himself in corners, avoided most human contact, except with Lily. Why Lily? He whispered. Why did he connect with her? Doctor. Vasquez shook her head. Animals sense things we don't. Maybe he recognized something in her. Vulnerability. Resilience. Whatever it was. That bond might help us now. If we stabilize him, he could potentially track her. While the veterinary team worked to counteract the poison in Ranger's system, search teams combed the surrounding desert. Helicopter spotlights swept across the rugged terrain, and neighboring jurisdictions were alerted with Lily's description. Back at home, Rebecca sat at the kitchen table, clutching Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit, while Detective Cooper methodically examined phone records. Has Lily's medical information been accessed recently? He asked suddenly. Hospital records, insurance claims? Rebecca blinked. I don't know. Why? In cases with children who have rare medical conditions, there's sometimes a specific motive. Cooper chose his words carefully. I need to check something. His cryptic statement hung in the air until the house phone rang, shattering the silence. Rebecca lunged for it. Hello, Lily. A child's muffled sobbing filtered through the line, then disconnected. Rebecca's legs gave way as Tom rushed to her side. It was her, she whispered. She's alive. Tom, Cooper immediately called the station to trace the call, while Tom helped Rebecca to the couch. The detective returned minutes later. Expression grim. Burner phone. Paid with cash. But we have an approximate location, near the old Silver Point mine. His gaze shifted between them. Has anyone unusual shown interest in Lily's medical condition recently? Anyone asked questions about her heart? Tom and Rebecca exchanged confused glances. The cardiologist ordered some additional tests last month, Tom offered. Said he wanted to consult with a specialist. Cooper nodded, making notes. I need the doctor's name. While the detective worked, Tom received a call from Drs. Vasquez. Ranger's stabilized, but he's far from recovered. The poison is designed to cause progressive organ failure. We've slowed it. But how long does he have? Tom asked, voice cracking. Without the antidote, 24 hours, maybe less. After hanging up, Tom discovered Cooper intently studying his laptop. Mr. Mason, was Dr. Maxwell Reed the specialist who requested Lily's records? Tom nodded slowly. Yes, I think that was the name. Prestigious cardiologist from Carson City. Our doctor was excited to have him review Lily's case. Cooper's expression darkened. Maxwell Reed lost his medical license 3 years ago for substance abuse and ethical violations. He doesn't practice medicine anymore, at least not legally. As this revelation sank in, Cooper received a call that changed everything. We've connected Lily's case to 3 other missing children, all with rare medical conditions, all disappearing within the last year across Nevada and Arizona. What are you saying? Rebecca asked, her face ashen. I believe we're dealing with an organ trafficking ring, Cooper said grimly. Children with rare conditions have unique physiological characteristics that make their organs valuable to certain buyers. Dr. Reed's specialty was pediatric cardiac surgery before his license was revoked. The horrifying implication hung in the air like poison gas. Rebecca doubled over, a primal sound escaping her throat. Tom steadied himself against the wall, vision blurring. We're mobilizing every available resource, Cooper assured them. I've called in FBI assistance. That night, as the Masons kept desperate vigil by the phone, Dr. Vasquez called with alarming news. Ranger's gone. Somehow he broke out of his kennel. Security cameras show him heading west toward your neighborhood. By morning, there was no sign of the shepherd at the Mason home, but muddy paw prints led from their backyard fence into the desert beyond, toward Silver Point Mine. He's tracking her, Tom said with sudden certainty. He's going after Lily. In the distance, storm clouds gathered over the mountains as Ranger's prints disappeared into the vastness of the Nevada desert. Somewhere out there, a poisoned dog was hunting for his girl, racing against his own failing body, guided by nothing but love and the fading scent of the child who had healed his broken heart. The Nevada desert harbored no mercy for the wounded. Under the punishing morning sun, Ranger's paws left bloody prints on baked earth as he followed Lily's scent westward. The German shepherd's training battled against the poison circulating through his system, each mile a victory against his deteriorating body. His tongue lolled from his mouth, dry and swollen, but stopping wasn't an option his heart would accept. 15 years of instinct guided him. Track, locate, rescue. The mission parameters had never changed. Only the stakes had grown immeasurably higher. This wasn't a stranger in his search grid. This was Lily. His Lily. 4 miles from the Mason home. Ranger paused at a highway crossing. Cars whizzed past at 70 miles per hour, their wind buffeting his weakened frame. He swayed, vision blurring, the zip tie still partially embedded in his neck fur despite the Mason's attempts to remove it. A trucker blasted his horn as Ranger miscalculated the timing and nearly stumbled into the road. The shepherd retreated, circling back a 1/4 mile to find a drainage tunnel underneath the asphalt. The concrete scraped against his sides as he dragged himself through, emerging coated in mud but with the scent trail intact, as Ranger continued his desperate journey. Lily Mason awoke to cold darkness. Her small body lay on a metal table, arms secured with plastic restraints. Disorientation gave way to terror as memories flooded back. The men in her house, Ranger fighting, the sweet-smelling cloth over her face. Her chest tightened painfully, the familiar warning sign of her heart under stress. "She's awake," a female voice announced clinically. Fluorescent lights flickered on, revealing a room that resembled a hospital operating theater, but with obvious differences. The equipment looked expensive but haphazardly arranged. The walls were rough-hewn stone, not hospital drywall, and instead of the antiseptic smell of Mercy Regional, this place carried the musty scent of earth and abandonment. A man in blue surgical scrubs approached, his face masked, but eyes crinkling with what appeared to be a smile. "Hello, Lily. I'm Dr. Reed. How are you feeling?" Lily pulled against her restraints, panic rising. "Where am I? Where's my mom and dad? Where's Ranger?" "Your dog, Doctor." Reed checked a monitor displaying Lily's vital signs. "I'm afraid he didn't make it, dear. The sedative we gave him was quite strong." Tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. "You're lying. Ranger wouldn't leave me." "Such loyalty," Reed remarked, adjusting an IV line connected to Lily's arm. "Admirable but misplaced. Don't worry about him now. We need to focus on you and your special heart." Through her tears, Lily studied his movements. Despite her age, years of medical appointments had taught her to recognize the routines of healthcare. This man moved like her doctors, but lacked their gentle reassurance. His clinical efficiency carried an undertone of something cold and mechanical. "You're not a real doctor," she whispered. Reed paused, something darkening in his eyes. "I was the finest pediatric cardiac surgeon in 3 states before bureaucrats and addiction specialists decided otherwise." He leaned closer. "Do you know how many children died waiting for hearts while perfectly good organs were wasted on the elderly, on alcoholics, on people who squandered the gift?" He straightened, resuming his preparations. "Your tetralogy of Fallot creates unique adaptations in your cardiac system, adaptations that make your heart extraordinarily valuable to the right recipient." His voice took on an almost reverential quality. "Your sacrifice will save someone truly worthy." Lily's 8-year-old mind struggled to process his words, but instinct told her their meaning. "You're going to take my heart," she whispered. Reed patted her hand as if she'd answered correctly in class. "Not me personally. My surgical days are technically over. My associate will handle the procedure while I supervise. Now, rest. The operation is scheduled for tomorrow morning." After Reed departed, Lily lay alone in the dim room, tears streaming silently into her hair. She closed her eyes, picturing Ranger's steady presence, imagining his warm body beside her bed as she read to him. "Please be alive," she whispered into the emptiness. "Please find me." Miles away, Tom and Rebecca Mason huddled in their living room as law enforcement transformed their home into a command center. Detective Cooper spread a map across their coffee table, pointing to circled locations. "We've identified 3 potential sites based on the phone trace and historical ownership records connected to Reed or his known associates." His finger tapped a location marked with red. "The old Silver Point mine is our primary target. It's been abandoned for decades but has infrastructure. Electricity lines were rerouted there 2 years ago, supposedly for equipment monitoring the structural integrity of the mine." "How soon can you get there?" Tom asked, clutching Rebecca's trembling hand. "We're coordinating with tactical teams now. The problem is jurisdiction and manpower. The mine crosses county lines, and we need sufficient personnel to cover multiple entrances." Cooper's expression revealed his frustration. "I've requested FBI support, but they're still hours out." Rebecca stood suddenly. "We don't have hours. You said yourself these people take organs. They could be—" Her voice broke. "We're moving as fast as we can, Mrs. Mason," Cooper assured her. "Every officer in 3 counties is looking for Lily. At Mercy Regional Medical Center, Dr. Sarah Whitfield sorted through patient files, preparing to hand over her cases to her replacement. Retirement loomed just hours away, but her mind kept returning to the cases of 2 children who had come through the ER in recent months, both with rare conditions, both subsequently disappearing. Officially, one was a runaway and the other had moved with family to Arizona. But something about the timing nagged at her. On impulse, she pulled up their medical records, noting the same digital signature had accessed both files shortly before their disappearances. The hospital system showed the access came from Dr. Anton Weber, a locum tenens physician who had filled in during staff shortages last year. Whitfield frowned. She'd met Weber briefly, an unremarkable man with perfect credentials. Too perfect, perhaps. She dialed hospital administration. "This is Dr. Whitfield. Did we verify Dr. Weber's credentials through primary sources or just accept the locum agency's documentation?" She listened, her frown deepening. "I see. And who requested him specifically?" The answer sent a chill through her. Maxwell Reed had personally recommended Weber to the staffing committee. The same Maxwell Reed who had operated on her daughter Emily 15 years ago, attempting unsuccessfully to save her after the Williams Building collapse. Whitfield pulled up autopsy photos from a John Doe found near the state line 3 months ago, a case she'd consulted on because of unusual surgical anomalies. The precise pattern of the incisions had struck her as familiar, but she couldn't place why. Now, comparing them with surgical records from Reed's former practice, she saw it clearly. The technique was distinctive, Reed's signature approach. Her hands trembling, Whitfield contacted Detective Cooper. Inside the abandoned Silver Point mine, Maxwell Reed reviewed preparations in what had once been a foreman's office, now converted to administrative headquarters for his operation. Monitors displayed various rooms throughout the sprawling underground complex, including Lily's holding area. "The Hernandez boys' organs shipped successfully," reported Anton Weber, removing his lab coat. "Payment confirmed from our European client." Reed nodded absently, studying Lily's vital signs on a monitor. "Her cardiac function is extraordinary. considering the defect. The adaptation her body has made creates exactly the kind of stress-resistant tissue our Saudi client needs. The father's been calling hospitals asking about unauthorized access to her records, Weber mentioned. And there's significant police activity in Silverdale. Expected, Reed replied, unconcerned. By the time they narrow down our location, we'll be finished and relocated. The backup site in Arizona is already prepared. He tapped a screen showing another child in a different holding room. Schedule the Mason girl first, then the Patterson boy. We'll extract, pack, and evacuate within 12 hours. Weber hesitated. And the children's remains, Reed's expression hardened. The usual protocol. The old mining shafts are nearly 1,000 feet deep. He turned away, adding, make sure the anesthesia is adequate this time. I don't want a repeat of the Hernandez situation. As darkness fell across the desert, Ranger navigated through treacherous terrain, his trained senses pushing through the poison's fog. Each step required monumental effort, his muscles trembling with exhaustion and toxicity. Twice he collapsed, lying motionless until some internal reserve of determination forced him back to his feet. The zip tie around his neck had rubbed his skin raw, blood matting the fur beneath it. His breathing came in labored gasps. Still, he pressed forward. Following Lily's scent mixed with unfamiliar chemical odors and the distinctive smell of the men who had taken her, as moonlight illuminated the landscape, Ranger detected the scent growing stronger. Ahead, barely visible against the hillside. Concrete structures marked mine entrances. Security lights cast small pools of yellow illumination, and a chain-link fence surrounded the perimeter. The German shepherd's training kicked in. Despite his deteriorating condition, he circled the compound, identifying guard positions and surveillance cameras. 2 men patrolled with flashlights, their movements casual, overconfident. They didn't expect trouble here, miles from anywhere. Ranger found his entry point where the fence met a drainage culvert, digging weakly at the hard ground until he created a depression deep enough to squeeze his body underneath. The effort left him panting and disoriented, but Lily's scent pulled him forward like a physical force. Inside Lily's holding room, the young girl had discovered she wasn't alone. Whispers from a ventilation grate revealed another child in an adjacent room, a boy named Jason who had been there for 3 days. They took Miguel yesterday. Jason's frightened voice explained. He didn't come back. My dog is coming for me, Lily whispered back confidently. He'll get help. They said my dog ran away when they took me, Jason replied skeptically. Ranger wouldn't run, Lily insisted. He's a hero dog. He used to rescue people before he came to live with us. She didn't share Dr. Reed's claim that Ranger was dead. She wouldn't believe it. Instead, she focused on the partial loosening of one restraint where the plastic had a manufacturing defect, working it methodically as her father had once shown her during a lesson about never giving up. In Silverdale, Detective Cooper received the information from Dr. Whitfield with grim confirmation. This matches our developing profile exactly, he told her over the phone. Reed lost everything when his license was revoked: prestigious practice, $1 million home, reputation. Organ trafficking would provide both income and a perverted continuation of his medical career. The surgical patterns in those autopsy photos are unmistakable, Whitfield insisted. It's his work. I watched him use those same techniques when he operated on my daughter." Cooper paused. "Your daughter, Emily Whitfield, Williams Building collapse. 15 years ago, Reed was called in as the top pediatric surgeon. But it was too late." Her voice caught. "I never blamed him for that. Emily's injuries were too severe. But to think he's now doing this—" The detective's voice softened. "I'm sorry about your daughter, Doctor, and I believe you're right about Reed. We're preparing to raid the Silver Point location, but we're waiting on tactical support. These children don't have time for bureaucratic delays," Whitfield said sharply. "I've reviewed the files of the missing children. Based on standard organ harvesting protocols, they won't wait more than 24 hours after assessment before proceeding." After hanging up, Whitfield stared at her office wall, at the medical license that would become inactive in less than 8 hours when her retirement officially began. With sudden decision, she grabbed her keys and emergency medical bag. At the Mason home, Tom paced relentlessly while Rebecca clutched Lily's stuffed rabbit. Cooper had ordered them to stay put while the raid was organized, but waiting had become unbearable torture. The vet said Ranger only had hours left. Tom said suddenly, "If he's tracking Lily—" Rebecca understood immediately. "He's leading us to her." Without further discussion, they grabbed jackets and a first aid kit. Cooper had left a junior officer named Peterson to monitor the house, but the young man was currently occupied coordinating communications in their kitchen. "We'll be right back," Tom told him vaguely. "Just getting something from the garage." Minutes later, their pickup truck headed west, following the same direction as Ranger's tracks, guided by Rebecca's intuition and Tom's determination. "If Ranger can find her with a belly full of poison," Tom said grimly, "we can follow his trail." Inside Silver Point Mine, Ranger navigated through shadowy tunnels, hugging the walls to avoid detection. The complex was larger than expected, a maze of passages and repurposed mining offices. His training helped him avoid 2 more security guards, but his strength was fading rapidly. Twice he vomited bile tinged with blood, his organs beginning to fail from the poison. The shepherd's keen nose led him to a heavy door with a small ventilation grate at the bottom. Lily's scent was overwhelming here. He whined softly, pressing his muzzle against the grate. Inside, Lily froze at the sound. "Ranger," she whispered in disbelief. A faint whine confirmed the miracle. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she worked her hand free from the loosened restraint. "I knew you'd come. I knew it." With one hand free, she quickly unfastened the other restraints. Her legs trembled as she slid from the table, careful to leave the monitoring sensors attached to avoid triggering alarms. The IV needle pulled painfully as she removed it, pressing a gauze pad against the small wound. At the door, she knelt to see Ranger's amber eyes through the grate. "Good boy," she whispered, her heart breaking at his obviously weakened condition. "Such a good, brave boy." The door was secured with an electronic keypad lock. Lily bit her lip, remembering the code Dr. Reed had entered earlier, 5231. With trembling fingers, she punched in the numbers, releasing a breath when the lock clicked open. Ranger staggered as the door swung outward, nearly collapsing into Lily's arms. The girl gasped at his condition, the raw wound around his neck, his blood-crusted fur, the glazed quality of his normally alert eyes. "You're hurt?" she whispered, arms encircling his neck. Ranger's tongue weakly licked her cheek, his entire body trembling with exhaustion. Despite his state, he remained focused, tugging gently at her hospital gown, urging her toward the exit. "Wait," Lily whispered. "There's another kid. Jason." She moved to the adjacent door, peering through the grate. "Jason, I'm getting you out. My dog found me." Using the same code. Lily freed the 10-year-old boy, who stared at Ranger with wide eyes. "Is he going to bite me?" "No, he's a hero," Lily assured him, though her concern grew as Ranger swayed on his feet. "But he's really sick. They poisoned him." Together, the children followed Ranger as he led them through the corridors, his training guiding them despite his failing strength. Twice they pressed into alcoves as guards passed. Once, Ranger deliberately knocked over a trash can in a different corridor to draw guards away from their position. They had nearly reached a service exit when lights flooded the hallway and alarms blared throughout the facility. "Security breach at the north entrance," announced a mechanical voice over the intercom. "They know we're gone," Jason whispered, panic rising in his voice. Lily clutched Ranger's fur. "What do we do?" The German shepherd made the decision for them, leading them down a different passage, away from the commotion. His movements were becoming increasingly uncoordinated, but determination kept him upright. Meanwhile, Dr. Maxwell Reed watched the security cameras with cold fury. "Find them!" he shouted at Weber. "How did she get out? And where did that dog come from?" Weber pointed to a monitor showing police vehicles approaching the main entrance. "We have bigger problems. Law enforcement. At least 4 units. Reed cursed, grabbing a laptop and external hard drive. "Initiate the emergency protocols. Wipe the servers. Destroy all medical waste. We're evacuating to Site 2. He paused, staring at another monitor showing Lily, Jason, and Ranger moving through a maintenance tunnel. "That dog. Wait. Magnify that image." The camera zoomed in on the shepherd's distinctive markings. "I know that animal," Reed whispered, recognition dawning. "That's the search and rescue dog from the Williams building." A twisted smile spread across his face. 15 years later, and we're still fighting over the same children." He grabbed a sedative kit and a handgun from a cabinet. "Handle the evacuation. I'll deal with our escapees personally." As Ranger led the children toward a service entrance, his legs finally betrayed him. The shepherd collapsed mid-stride, his breathing shallow and labored. Lily fell to her knees beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Get up, Ranger," she pleaded. "Please get up. We're almost out." The dog tried and failed to rise, whimpering softly in frustration and pain. His eyes remained fixed on Lily's face, communicating what his body could no longer accomplish. "He's dying," Jason said quietly. "We need to go without him." "No." Lily's voice broke. "I won't leave him. He didn't leave me." The sound of footsteps approaching forced a decision. Jason pulled at Lily's arm. "Hide. Now." They crouched behind ventilation equipment, Lily still clutching Ranger's fur, as Dr. Maxwell Reed entered the corridor, gun in hand. "I know you're here," he called, voice echoing off the stone walls. "Come out now, and I promise to make your procedures painless." His eyes fell on Ranger's prone form, and he approached cautiously, nudging the shepherd with his foot. Ranger growled weakly but couldn't rise. "Impressive," Reed remarked, crouching to examine the dog. "Ranger, isn't it Carson City's hero? You should have died from the poison days ago." He stroked the shepherd's head with mock gentleness. "You've led me right to them. Good dog." As Reed stood and turned toward their hiding place, Lily's heart pounded so loudly she was certain he would hear it. The doctor took one step toward them, then another. "I can hear you breathing, children," he said softly. "There's nowhere to go." As Dr. Reed approached their hiding place, Lily's trembling hand remained buried in Ranger's fur. The shepherd's amber eyes, though clouded with pain, tracked the doctor's movements, despite his weakened state. A low growl rumbled from his chest, a final warning, a last stand. "Come out now," Reed called, his voice carrying false compassion. "You're only prolonging the inevitable. Your conditions make you special. Children, your sacrifice will save lives, important lives." Jason pressed himself deeper into the shadows, but Lily's gaze remained fixed on Ranger. In the 3 months since he joined their family, she had learned to read his subtle signals. Now, despite his failing body, his eyes communicated one clear message: distraction. "I know about sacrifice," Lily called suddenly, squeezing Jason's arm to keep him silent. "My mom and dad taught me that real sacrifice is chosen, not forced." Reed pivoted toward her voice, a smile spreading across his face. "Wise beyond your years, Lily. Why don't you show yourself so we can discuss philosophy properly?" As the doctor's attention focused on locating her voice, Ranger summoned his remaining strength. With a surge of will that defied his poisoned body, the shepherd lunged forward, teeth clamping around Reed's ankle. The doctor screamed, the gun discharging wildly into the ceiling as he lost his balance. "Run!" Lily shouted to Jason, bursting from their hiding place not toward the exit, but toward Reed's dropped sedative kit. Her small fingers closed around a syringe as Jason bolted past her toward the service door. Reed kicked violently at Ranger, who maintained his grip despite the blows raining down on his head. "Filthy animal!" the doctor snarled, struggling to aim his weapon at the shepherd. Lily didn't hesitate. 8 years of medical treatments had taught her about injections, about finding veins and muscle tissue. With all her strength, she drove the syringe into Reed's thigh, depressing the plunger before he could register her presence. The doctor's eyes widened in shock as he swung toward her, gun raising. "You little—" His words slurred as the sedative took effect with stunning speed. The gun slipped from his fingers as he staggered, reaching for Lily, but finding only air before collapsing heavily beside Ranger. The shepherd released his grip, blood staining his muzzle. His sides heaved with exhaustion, each breath a battle. "You did it," Lily whispered, kneeling beside him, tears streaming down her face. "You saved us again," Jason returned cautiously. "Is he dead?" "Just sleeping," Lily answered, checking Reed's pulse as she'd seen doctors do countless times. "We need to hurry. Ranger needs help." The children fashioned a makeshift stretcher from Reed's lab coat, struggling to slide the shepherd's limp form onto it. Ranger whimpered as they moved him, but his eyes never left Lily's face, trust evident despite his pain. "I can't leave you," she whispered, pressing her forehead against his. "You never left me." Together, the children dragged the improvised stretcher toward the exit, their progress agonizingly slow. Behind them, shouting echoed through the corridors as Reed's associates discovered his unconscious form. "They're coming," Jason warned, his voice tight with fear. The service door loomed ahead, its small window revealing the desert night beyond. Freedom waited just yards away, but Ranger's dead weight and their exhausted arms made those final steps feel impossible. "Just a little more," Lily encouraged, her heart condition making her breathing labored. Dark spots danced at the edges of her vision, warning signs she recognized from past episodes. As they reached the door, Ranger stirred, somehow sensing her distress. With monumental effort, the shepherd pulled himself from the makeshift stretcher, staggering to his feet. His legs trembled violently, but he pressed his body against the door's push bar, adding his weight to the children's efforts. The door swung open to reveal the star-filled Nevada sky and the rough terrain surrounding the mine entrance. Cool night air rushed over them, carrying the scent of sage and freedom. "We made it," Jason breathed, relief washing over his face. Their victory was short-lived. Headlights swept the area as vehicles approached from the main entrance. Voices called out, whether police or Reed's people. They couldn't tell. "This way," Lily urged, pulling Jason toward a rocky outcropping that would provide cover. She turned to Ranger, who had collapsed again just outside the door. "Come on, boy. Please." The shepherd tried to rise, failed, then tried again. His determination was undiminished, but his body had reached its absolute limit. Each attempted movement grew weaker than the last. Lily made an instant decision, dropping to her knees beside him. "I'm not leaving you," she declared, her small hand stroking his blood-matted fur. "Lily, we have to go," Jason pleaded. "You go," she answered firmly. "Find the police. Tell them about me and Ranger. Tell them about the other kids." Jason hesitated, torn between self-preservation and loyalty to his newfound ally. Shouts grew closer, flashlight beams sweeping the terrain. "Go!" Lily insisted. With a last apologetic glance, Jason disappeared into the darkness, scrambling toward the distant highway. Alone with Ranger. Lily curled herself protectively around the shepherd's massive frame, her arms encircling his neck, her tears dampening his fur. "It's okay," she whispered. "You did everything right. We're together now." Ranger's tongue weakly brushed her cheek, his breathing increasingly shallow. The zip tie still embedded in his neck had torn open during his final attack on Reed, fresh blood seeping through his fur. "Police don't move," a voice suddenly commanded. A blinding light illuminating them, Lily squinted against the glare, unable to see the approaching figures. "Please," she called, her voice breaking. "Help my dog. They poisoned him." Detective James Cooper lowered his weapon as he recognized the small figure huddled around the massive shepherd. "Lily Mason?" he asked incredulously, rushing forward and kneeling beside her. "Are you hurt?" "Not me," she sobbed. "Ranger, he found me." He saved me, but he's dying." Cooper immediately radioed for medical assistance while checking the shepherd's condition. His expression grew grim as he noted the dog's labored breathing and the wounds around his neck. "Hang in there, boy," he murmured, genuine respect in his voice as he recognized the extraordinary feat the animal had accomplished. Additional officers secured the perimeter while Cooper wrapped his jacket around Lily's shivering form. "Your parents have been worried sick," he told her gently. "They'll be overjoyed to know you're safe." "They're here?" Lily asked, hope flaring in her eyes. Before Cooper could answer, another vehicle skidded to a halt nearby, its headlights illuminating the chaotic scene. Tom and Rebecca Mason burst out, frantically scanning the area until they spotted their daughter. "Lily!" Rebecca's scream cut through the night as both parents sprinted toward their child. The reunion that followed transcended words, arms enfolding, tears flowing freely, whispered assurances exchanged. Tom cradled Lily's face between his hands, examining every inch for injury, while Rebecca simply held on as though she might never let go again. "Ranger found me, Dad," Lily explained between sobs. "They poisoned him, but he came anyway. He fought the bad doctor. Please don't let him die." Tom turned his attention to the shepherd, his own tears falling as he assessed the animal's dire condition. "We need to get him to Dr. Vasquez immediately," he told Cooper. "He's been poisoned with some kind of progressive toxin." "Ambulance is 3 minutes out for Lily," Cooper replied. "We can transport the dog with her." Rebecca cradled Lily against her chest. "There are other children inside," she informed Cooper. "Lily says a boy named Jason ran toward the highway." "Units are already searching," Cooper assured her. "We have the building surrounded. No one's getting away." As they spoke, paramedics arrived, immediately attending to Lily. When they attempted to separate her from Ranger, however, she became distraught. "He stays with me," she insisted, small hands clutching the shepherd's fur. "I promised I wouldn't leave him." The lead paramedic exchanged glances with Cooper, who nodded. "The dog goes with her. He's the reason we found this place." Loading both Lily and Ranger into the ambulance presented challenges, but no one had the heart to separate them after all they'd endured. The shepherd lay on a stretcher beside Lily's, an oxygen mask improvised for his muzzle, IV fluids running into both patients. As the ambulance doors closed, Tom squeezed his daughter's hand. "We'll be right behind you," he promised. Rebecca leaned down to kiss Lily's forehead. "You're the bravest girl in the world," she whispered. "And Ranger is the bravest dog." As the ambulance pulled away, its sirens cutting through the desert night, Cooper approached the Masons. "We need to talk about how you found this place before my officers did," he said, though his tone held more admiration than reproach. Tom gestured toward the mine entrance where officers led handcuffed suspects to waiting vehicles. "Ranger did the hard part. We just followed his tracks in our hearts." Inside the ambulance, Lily kept one hand on Ranger's fur as paramedics monitored her condition. The shepherd's breathing had grown increasingly labored, his massive chest rising and falling in irregular patterns. "His heart rate's dropping," one paramedic noted quietly to his colleague. Lily heard them. "Stay with me, Ranger," she pleaded, her voice barely audible over the sirens. "We're almost there." The doctors will make you better. But the shepherd's eyes were losing focus, his system finally surrendering to the poison that had been consuming him for days. The zip tie wound had opened completely during transport, blood soaking through the bandages the paramedics had applied. "No, no, no," Lily chanted, her own heart monitor beeping faster as her condition destabilized in response to her distress. "Please don't go. Please." The paramedic moved to separate them, concerned about Lily's deteriorating vitals. "Honey, I need you to calm down. Your heart. He is my heart," Lily cried, refusing to release her grip on Ranger's fur. "He came for me when everyone else thought he was too sick. He never gave up." The paramedic relented, recognizing that separating them might cause more harm than good. Instead, he adjusted Lily's oxygen and medications while his partner continued working on the shepherd. Through tear-blurred vision, Lily watched Ranger's chest rise and fall, each breath seeming like it might be his last. The shepherd's eyes remained fixed on her face, communicating what his failing body could not: unwavering devotion. A promise kept. "I love you," she whispered, pressing her face against his. "You're the best dog in the whole world." At Mercy Regional Medical Center, Dr. Sarah Whitfield had just returned from her unauthorized reconnaissance of Silver Point Mine when the emergency alert sounded. Having found the area already surrounded by police, she'd reluctantly returned to the hospital, her retirement paperwork still unsigned on her desk. 8-year-old female, tetralogy of Fallat, kidnapping victim, arriving in 3 minutes. The overhead announcement declared, "Trauma team to Emergency Bay 1. Whitfield froze, the description matching the Mason case that had been all over local news. Without hesitation, she grabbed her stethoscope and headed for the ambulance bay. Retirement forgotten. As the vehicle screamed into the emergency entrance, Whitfield joined the waiting team of nurses and specialists. The doors flew open to reveal a scene none of them had anticipated: a small girl connected to monitoring equipment, her hand buried in the fur of a massive, blood-covered German shepherd on an adjacent stretcher. "Patient's name is Lily Mason," the paramedic reported, jumping out. "Vital signs stable but fluctuating due to stress. History of tetralogy of Fallat. No apparent physical trauma, but requires full evaluation." He hesitated before adding, "The dog is critical. Unknown toxin. Progressive organ failure. Severe laceration to the neck. Child refuses separation." Whitfield assessed the situation instantly. "Bring them both in. Trauma 1 for the girl. Adjacent treatment room for the dog. Page Dr. Elena Vasquez from Veterinary Emergency Services. Hospital privileges under the therapy animal program." As the stretchers were unloaded, Whitfield got her first clear look at the shepherd. Recognition hit her like a physical blow. The distinctive white chest marking, the scar above the right eye. She had seen this dog before, in the worst moment of her life. "Ranger," she whispered incredulously. The dog's ears twitched slightly at the name, though his eyes remained fixed on Lily. 15 years collapsed into a single moment of clarity. Whitfield remembered the search and rescue dog who had refused to leave her daughter's side in the rubble of the Williams building. The animal that had to be sedated because he wouldn't abandon his post. Even after Emily was gone, the same dog who had now, somehow, saved another child. "Dr. Whitfield." A nurse's concerned voice broke through her shock. "Are you all right?" Whitfield straightened. professional focus returning. Yes, let's move. These two have a story to tell us, and I intend to hear it. She leaned close to Lily's ear as they wheeled the stretchers inside. Your dog is a hero. Sweetheart, we're going to do everything we can for both of you. Lily's frightened eyes met the doctor's. Promise you won't separate us. He gets scared without me. Whitfield squeezed her small hand. I promise we'll keep you together as much as medically possible. Now let's get you both taken care of. As the trauma team rushed them through the emergency room doors, Ranger's legs suddenly stiffened, his body arching in a seizure. Lily screamed as staff moved quickly to stabilize him. He's crashing, someone called out. We need Vasquez now. Through the chaotic flurry of medical intervention, Lily reached desperately for her protector, her friend, her hero. The dog who had crossed miles of desert, battled kidnappers, and defied death itself to save her. Don't leave me, she begged, as they wheeled Ranger into the adjacent treatment room, a glass partition allowing her to see but not touch him. Please don't leave me. In that moment, as medical teams fought for both their lives, their roles reversed. Now it was Lily's turn to stand watch, to refuse to abandon hope, to channel the same unyielding loyalty that had driven a poisoned shepherd through the Nevada desert with one mission: bring her home. The chaos of the emergency room faded to background noise as Lily watched through the glass partition while veterinary staff worked frantically over Ranger's massive form. The shepherd's body convulsed again, his legs paddling against invisible terrain as the seizure gripped him. Dr. Elena Vasquez had arrived within minutes of their entrance, her face grim as she assessed the dog's deteriorating condition. Phenobarbital, 2 milligrams per kilogram. IV push, Vasquez ordered, her hands moving with practiced efficiency as she placed an endotracheal tube down Ranger's throat. Start cooling measures. His temperature's 106. Lily barely registered the medical team attending to her own needs, drawing blood, attaching monitors, checking her heart. Her focus remained entirely on the adjacent room where Ranger fought his final battle. Dr. Whitfield noticed the girl's vital signs destabilizing as she watched the dog's crisis. Lily, Whitfield said gently, positioning herself to block the view, I need you to focus on me right now. Ranger is getting the best care possible, but you need to let us help you too. Tears streamed down Lily's face. He's dying because of me. Whitfield took the girl's small hand between her own. No, sweetheart. He's fighting because of you. There's a difference. She brushed Lily's matted hair from her forehead. Can you tell me what happened? What did they give him? Through broken sobs, Lily recounted everything. The poisoned meat left around their property days before the kidnapping. Dr. Reed's comment about a progressive toxin designed to cause organ failure. He said it was mercy, she whispered, that it wouldn't hurt Ranger. But it did hurt him. It's still hurting him. Whitfield relayed this information immediately to Vasquez, who nodded grimly. Sounds like thallium compounds mixed with anticoagulants, the veterinarian theorized. Designed for prolonged suffering rather than immediate death. We need to start chelation therapy and blood transfusions. Will that save him? Whitfield asked quietly, conscious of Lily's attention. Vasquez's expression revealed the truth before she spoke. It might buy time, but the organ damage is extensive. His kidneys are shutting down. Liver function is compromised. And now, the neurological symptoms. She shook her head slightly. The fact he made it this far, is nothing short of miraculous. In the treatment room, Ranger's seizure finally subsided under medication, but his breathing remained mechanically assisted, his robust frame suddenly appearing diminished against the white treatment table. Blood samples disappeared to the lab while IV lines delivered fluids, medications, and plasma. The zip tie wound had been cleaned and sutured, but blood continued to seep through the bandages. Tom and Rebecca Mason arrived breathless at the emergency room, directed immediately to Lily's bedside. The family reunion became a symphony of tears, whispered reassurances, and desperate embraces. Through it all, Lily maintained her vigil, eyes constantly straying to the glass partition where Ranger lay motionless under a tangle of medical equipment. "He found me, Dad," she explained, clutching her father's hand. "He was so sick, but he still found me. He fought the bad doctor to save me." Tom's eyes glistened as he looked toward the shepherd. "I know, sweetheart. Ranger is the bravest dog I've ever known." Rebecca stroked her daughter's hair, her own gaze fixed on the dog that had become family in just 3 months. "The police found the other children," she told Lily gently. "Jason made it to the highway. They're all safe because of you and Ranger." Detective Cooper arrived shortly after, his expression softening at the sight of the reunited family. He approached Lily's bed with notebook in hand, but paused when he saw her exhaustion. "The questions can wait," he assured Tom and Rebecca. "We've apprehended Reed and 6 accomplices. The operation is shut down." "And the other children?" Tom asked. "All accounted for. All alive," Cooper confirmed. "Some will need specialized medical care, but they'll survive." He glanced toward the veterinary treatment room. "How's the hero doing?" Before anyone could answer, alarms blared from Ranger's monitors. Dr. Vasquez and her team rushed back to the shepherd's side as his heart rhythm deteriorated into a chaotic pattern. "V-fib!" someone shouted. "Crash cart!" Lily screamed, attempting to climb from her bed as Rebecca gently restrained her. Dr. Whitfield hurried to the connecting door, watching as Vasquez administered electric shocks to Ranger's chest, trying to restore normal rhythm. Once, twice, 3 times the paddles delivered their charge. The monitor continued its frantic, irregular beeping. "Push EP," Vasquez ordered, beginning chest compressions on the massive dog. Her team worked with coordinated precision, but the grim set of their faces told the story their voices wouldn't. "Please," Lily sobbed, her small body shaking with the force of her despair. "Please, save him. Please." For 15 excruciating minutes, the veterinary team fought to revive Ranger. Medications, more shocks, manual compressions, a full arsenal of emergency interventions deployed against the relentless poison destroying his system. Dr. Whitfield remained at the connecting door, her professional detachment crumbling as she watched another loss unfolding before Lily's eyes. Finally, Vasquez stepped back, her gloved hands bloodied from the effort. She looked at the clock on the wall. Time of death, 2:17 a.m. The pronouncement carried through the thin walls, striking Lily with physical force. Her anguished wail pierced the hospital's clinical atmosphere, a sound of such pure grief that nurses several stations away paused in their duties. Rebecca gathered her daughter against her chest, her own tears falling freely, as Tom wrapped his arms around them both. Dr. Whitfield entered the veterinary room, approaching Ranger's still form. She placed her hand gently on his head, memories of another tragedy superimposing themselves over this moment. 15 years, she said softly to Vasquez. This dog was with my daughter when she died in the Williams Building collapse. He refused to leave her, had to be sedated to be removed from her side. She stroked his fur once. Now he's done it again, stayed with another child until his last breath. Vasquez wiped tears from her own eyes. I've never seen anything like this case. The poison in his system should have killed him days ago. There's no medical explanation for how he made it this far. There is, Whitfield said simply. Love, the most powerful force in medicine, though we can't measure it in any lab. Through the glass, they could see Lily's inconsolable form curled against her mother, her small shoulders heaving with sobs. The monitors tracking her heart showed dangerous instability, her cardiac condition responding to the emotional trauma. We need to stabilize her, Whitfield said, returning to Lily's bedside. The girl's skin had taken on a bluish tinge, her oxygen levels dropping as her damaged heart struggled under the stress. Lily, I need you to take deep breaths, Whitfield instructed, adjusting the oxygen flow. Your heart is working too hard right now. I don't care, Lily whispered, her voice hollow with grief. Ranger didn't care about his heart. He kept going. Tom leaned close to his daughter. Ranger would want you to fight, just like he did. He protected you until help came. Now you need to protect yourself for him. Something in her father's words penetrated Lily's grief. She nodded slightly, making a visible effort to control her breathing as Whitfield had instructed. The cardiac monitor's frantic beeping gradually slowed. That's it, Whitfield encouraged. Good girl. Rebecca smoothed her daughter's hair. Would you like to say goodbye to Ranger? Would that help? Lily nodded, her eyes red-rimmed and swollen with Whitfield's cautious approval. Tom lifted his daughter from the bed, IV pole and all, carrying her into the veterinary treatment room where Ranger lay. The medical equipment had been removed, leaving only the noble shepherd, his form still and peaceful at last. Lily reached out with trembling fingers to touch his fur. He's still warm, she whispered. Yes, Vasquez said gently. He hasn't been gone long. Tom carefully set Lily down beside the treatment table. The girl leaned forward, wrapping her arms around Ranger's neck one last time, burying her face in his fur. Thank you for finding me, she whispered against his ear. Thank you for not giving up. You're the best dog in the whole world, and I'll love you forever. As Lily held Ranger, the adults withdrew slightly, giving her space for this final goodbye. Rebecca pressed her face against Tom's shoulder, their shared grief overwhelming. Detective Cooper stood respectfully in the doorway, hat in hand, his weathered face solemn with recognition of the sacrifice he had witnessed. In that sterile hospital room, surrounded by the trappings of modern medicine that had proven insufficient to save him, Ranger received the most profound honor any search and rescue dog could hope for: the tearful gratitude of the child he had given his life to save. Doctor. Whitfield watched the scene with professional concern for Lily's condition, but also with the empathy of someone who understood this particular loss all too well. 15 years earlier, this same dog had kept vigil over her daughter. The symmetry wasn't lost on her. The completion of a circle that had begun in tragedy and ended in both triumph and heartbreak. As Lily whispered her final goodbyes, a single tear slipped down Whitfield's cheek. For Emily, for Lily, for the extraordinary animal who had connected their stories across time and tragedy. Dr. Sarah Whitfield gently guided Lily back to her treatment room, the girl's small body trembling with exhausted grief. Tom carried his daughter while Rebecca walked alongside, her hand never leaving Lily's arm, as if afraid she might disappear again. The monitors resumed their steady tracking of Lily's compromised heart, the numbers stabilizing somewhat after the emotional storm of saying goodbye to Ranger. "Try to rest now," Whitfield urged, adjusting Lily's IV. "Your body's been through a tremendous ordeal." Lily stared at the ceiling, tears flowing silently. "I can't close my eyes," she whispered. "I keep seeing him looking for me, trying so hard even though he was dying." Tom squeezed his daughter's hand. "Ranger knew exactly what he was doing. Sweetheart, that's what made him special. He chose to find you, no matter what it cost him." As the family huddled together in the narrow hospital room, Detective Cooper appeared in the doorway, his expression troubled. "Dr. Whitfield, may I speak with you outside?" In the corridor, Cooper ran a hand over his weary face. "We've been interrogating Reed's associates. The poison they used on the dog was custom designed by Reed himself." He hesitated, glancing toward Lily's room. "There's something else. The preliminary blood work on Lily shows anomalies the medical team can't explain." Whitfield frowned. "What kind of anomalies?" "They found traces of the same compound that poisoned Ranger in Lily's bloodstream, but with an unexpected modification. The lab says her blood contains antibodies that are neutralizing the toxin, antibodies that shouldn't exist." Whitfield's medical mind raced through possibilities. "That's impossible. She would have needed prior exposure to develop antibodies, and even then—" According to Reed's notes, which we seized from his laptop, he designed this poison specifically because it was undetectable and had no known antidote. Cooper lowered his voice further. "Yet somehow, Lily's body is fighting it off naturally. How did it get into her system in the first place?" Whitfield demanded. Cooper gestured toward the veterinary treatment room where Ranger's body remained. "When the dog fought Reed, he was injured again. His blood got on Lily, open wounds, mucous membranes, during their escape and the journey to the hospital. His blood transferred to her system." Whitfield's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "The zip tie around his neck. When Reed kicked him during the struggle—" "Exactly. Ranger's blood entered Lily's system through her existing cuts and scrapes. But here's the remarkable part. According to Reed's files, he tested this poison on other animals during development. None survived beyond 72 hours. Yet Ranger lived at least 4 days, with progressively increasing doses. He developed partial immunity," Whitfield whispered. The medical impossibility challenging everything she knew. Somehow his system started producing antibodies. Incomplete, but functioning. Cooper nodded. Reed's notes indicate frustration that the dog wouldn't die on schedule. He increased the dosage twice, and then Ranger's blood transferred those antibodies to Lily during their escape. Whitfield finished, the pieces falling into place. "It's not enough to save him, but it might have saved her," Cooper concluded. The medical team examining the other children found the same poison in their systems. Reed was preparing them all. Without treatment, they would have started showing symptoms within days. Whitfield leaned against the wall, the implications overwhelming her. "You're telling me that even in death, this dog saved not just Lily, but potentially all those children. The lab is synthesizing the antibodies from Lily's blood now to treat the others," Cooper confirmed. "They'll need to receive treatment quickly, but yes, they should recover completely." Whitfield stared through the window at Lily's room, where the exhausted child had finally drifted into restless sleep, her parents maintaining their protective vigil on either side. "She doesn't know, does she, that Ranger is still saving her even now?" "No, and there's one more thing you should know." Cooper pulled out his phone, showing Whitfield a photograph. "This was found in Reed's personal belongings. Do you recognize it?" The faded photograph showed a young girl with a surgical team. In the background, partially cropped but clearly visible, was a younger Maxwell Reed in surgical scrubs. Whitfield's breath caught as she recognized the patient. "That's Emily, my daughter." Her voice trembled. "From her final surgery after the building collapse." Cooper nodded grimly. "Reed kept this all these years. There's writing on the back." He turned the phone to show the reverse side of the photograph, where spidery handwriting declared, "The one I couldn't save." Whitfield pressed a hand to her mouth, memories flooding back with painful clarity. Reed was the lead surgeon that day. He worked for hours trying to save Emily, long after other doctors thought it was hopeless. When she died, he was destroyed. I remember he kept saying he could have saved her if he'd had better equipment, more time. According to his confession, that failure became his obsession, Cooper explained. He convinced himself that by harvesting organs from less worthy children, he could save those he deemed more valuable. A God complex of the worst kind. And Ranger was there for both, Whitfield whispered. The same dog who stayed with Emily until the end found Lily 15 years later. Cooper tucked his phone away. When Reed saw Ranger in the mine, he recognized him immediately, called it cosmic justice that they were facing off again over another child's life. Whitfield moved to the window of the veterinary room where Ranger's still form lay covered with a blue hospital blanket. Only his noble head visible. "All these years, I thought I was the only one who couldn't move past that day, who carried Emily with me through every shift, every patient." She placed her palm against the glass. "But he carried it too, and in the end, he got it right. He saved this one." The retirement papers waiting on Whitfield's desk seemed suddenly insignificant compared to the revelation unfolding before her. For 15 years, she had moved through her career like a ghost, going through the motions without the passion that had once defined her. Now, watching Lily sleep, knowing what Ranger had sacrificed, something long dormant stirred within her professional soul. "I'd like to oversee Lily's continued treatment personally," she told Cooper, "and coordinate the protocols for the other children." Cooper studied her with newfound respect. "I thought today was your last day. Retirement and all that." A faint smile touched Whitfield's lips. "It seems I have unfinished business here." When Lily awoke hours later, the morning sun streamed through her hospital window. The room had filled with flowers, stuffed animals, and cards, community support for the little girl who had survived against impossible odds. She blinked in confusion, her grief momentarily displaced by wonder at the colorful display. "Good morning, sweetheart," Rebecca said softly, smoothing her daughter's hair back from her forehead. "How are you feeling?" Memories crashed back, bringing fresh tears. "Is Ranger still?" She couldn't finish the question. Tom nodded gently. "Yes, honey. But Dr. Whitfield has something important to tell you about him." Whitfield approached the bed, her professional demeanor softened by genuine warmth. "Lily, sometimes in medicine we witness things we can't fully explain. Miracles, some might call them." She pulled up a chair beside the bed. "The blood tests we ran on you last night showed something remarkable." With gentle simplicity appropriate for an 8-year-old, Whitfield explained how Ranger's blood had entered Lily's system during their ordeal, carrying with it the antibodies his body had developed against the poison. "You mean part of Ranger is inside me?" Lily asked, her red-rimmed eyes widening. "In a way, yes," Whitfield confirmed. "His body learned to fight the poison, and now yours is doing the same thing. And not just yours. We're using what we learned to help the other children Reed kidnapped." Lily's hand moved to her heart, pressing against her hospital gown. "So he's still saving people's Yes." Whitfield smiled, her own eyes misting. "That's exactly right." Tom leaned forward, taking his daughter's hand. "There's something else. Lily, Dr. Whitfield knew Ranger before we did." As morning light filled the small hospital room, Whitfield shared the story she had kept locked inside for 15 years, the building collapse, her daughter Emily, and the German shepherd who had refused to leave a dying child. How that same dog, years later, had found his way to the Mason family and ultimately to Lily. "I think he was meant to find you," Whitfield concluded, her voice thick with emotion. "To complete what he couldn't finish with Emily." Lily absorbed this revelation with the peculiar wisdom of children who have faced mortality. "He wasn't broken," she said finally. "Everyone at the shelter said he was broken, but he wasn't. He was just waiting." "Waiting for what, sweetheart?" Rebecca asked. Lily looked up, absolute certainty in her eyes. "Waiting to finish his job? Waiting to save me?" The profound simplicity of her understanding brought fresh tears to every adult in the room. In that moment, the tragedy of Ranger's death transformed into something else, not diminished in its sadness, but elevated by its purpose. Not an ending, but a completion. 1 month later, Lily Mason sat in a wheelchair on the sunlit grounds of Mercy Regional Medical Center, a light breeze ruffling her hair as she waited for her parents to complete her discharge paperwork. Her recovery had progressed steadily, though her doctors maintained a watchful eye on her heart condition, which had shown unusual improvement since her ordeal. The Mason miracle, the local papers had called it. Not just Lily's survival and rescue, but the subsequent arrests of Maxwell Reed and his entire organ trafficking network. 7 children had been saved directly. and evidence from Reed's files had led to the disruption of similar operations in 3 other states. Throughout her recovery, Lily had received cards and letters from families across the country, all expressing gratitude to the little girl and her extraordinary dog. Tom appeared in the hospital doorway, pushing an empty wheelchair since Lily had insisted on waiting outside. "Ready to go home, sweetheart?" Lily nodded, her fingers absently touching the small wooden box in her lap, a handcrafted container holding a portion of Ranger's ashes. The remainder had been scattered at Sunrise Point, a desert lookout where the Mason family had taken Ranger on his first real outing after adoption. "Can we stop somewhere first?" she asked as her father helped her from one wheelchair to the other. Tom exchanged glances with Rebecca, who had followed with their daughter's belongings. "Of course. Where would you like to go?" "The animal shelter," Lily replied without hesitation. "I want to use some of my letter money to help the dogs no one wants." The letter money referred to the donations that had accompanied many of the cards Lily received, amounts that had accumulated into several $1,000s. Tom and Rebecca had placed it in a special account for their daughter's future, but Lily had other ideas. "I think that's a wonderful way to honor Ranger," Rebecca said, squeezing her daughter's shoulder, "at Silverdale Animal Shelter." The staff greeted Lily like a returning hero. Her story had transformed the fortunes of the modest facility, with donations and adoption rates soaring after news coverage featured Ranger's shelter origins. A newly installed plaque in the lobby told the German Shepherd's story, his photograph crowned with the words, "Every animal deserves a second chance." Director Martha Simmons knelt beside Lily's wheelchair. "We have something to show you," she said, leading the family to the shelter's rear exercise yard. There, romping with surprising energy for his age, was a black and tan German Shepherd with graying muzzle. At the sight of visitors, the dog approached cautiously, his gait slightly stiff from arthritis. "This is Max," Martha explained. "He was a military working dog, retired after 3 tours in Afghanistan. His handler couldn't keep him. And at 9 years old, no one wants to adopt him." She smiled sadly. "Sound familiar?" Lily extended her hand slowly, allowing Max to sniff her fingers. The shepherd's initial wariness gave way to curiosity, then to something that looked remarkably like recognition. He moved closer, pressing his head gently against her palm. "He likes you," Martha observed. "He understands," Lily corrected softly, scratching behind the dog's ears. Tom and Rebecca needed no discussion. The decision made in a silent exchange of glances. "Would you like to give Max a home?" Tom asked his daughter. Lily looked up at her parents, then back at the shepherd, whose warm brown eyes held the same steady intelligence she remembered in Ranger's. "He won't replace Ranger," she said firmly. "No one could," Rebecca agreed. "But maybe, like you helped Ranger heal, you could help Max too." 2 days later, Max settled into the Mason home with the dignified caution of an animal who had seen too much of the world's darkness, like Ranger before him. He initially kept his distance, observing the family dynamics from safe corners, but unlike Ranger, Max had Lily's experienced patience to guide him. "He needs time," she explained to her parents. "And lots of reading." True to her word, Lily began their relationship as she had with Ranger, sitting near but not too close, reading aloud from The Secret Garden, allowing Max to approach on his terms. By the end of the first week, the shepherd had claimed his spot outside her bedroom door. At Mercy Regional, Dr. Sarah Whitfield hung a new photograph beside her daughter's on her office wall, one showing Lily with Ranger, taken from the Masons family album. Her retirement paperwork remained unsigned in her desk drawer, replaced by proposals for a new pediatric trauma response unit she would lead. The hospital board had approved her request for a therapy dog program, with training facilities named in Ranger's honor. On quiet evenings when her shift ended, Whitfield sometimes visited the small memorial garden where a stone marker commemorated Ranger's sacrifice. There, in the peaceful shadow of the hospital he had struggled so valiantly to reach. The inscription read simply, "Ranger, Search and Rescue, Hero, Friend. Greater love hath no one than this, that one lay down his life for another." Life continued its imperfect, precious journey in Silverdale. The Mason family moved forward, their bonds strengthened by tragedy and resilience. Max gradually emerged from his shell, his military precision softening under Lily's gentle care, and each night, as promised, Lily read aloud to her new guardian, the wooden box containing Ranger's ashes keeping silent vigil on her nightstand. "See, Max," she would whisper, as the shepherd's eyes drooped with contentment. "The whole world can be a garden if you look the right way." As we age, we often wonder if our capacity to make a difference diminishes with our graying hair and slowing steps. Ranger's story reminds us that our greatest contributions may come when we're battle-worn and overlooked by a world fixated on youth and perfection. This German shepherd, dismissed as damaged goods after trauma, summoned the courage to save a child when his own body was failing. How many of us feel set aside, our wisdom and determination undervalued, like Ranger? Our greatest purpose might still lie ahead, perhaps in the life of a grandchild who needs our protection, a community that needs our experience, or a cause that needs our unwavering loyalty. Remember, it wasn't Ranger's strength that saved Lily. It was his refusal to quit, his commitment to finish what he started decades earlier. Our bodies may weaken, but our capacity for heroism doesn't expire with our youth. The most profound chapters of our lives may still be unwritten, waiting for that moment when everything we've endured gives us exactly what's needed to make the difference only we can make. In our autumn years, we may yet discover our greatest purpose.